Welcome back to Gonzo, Mike, and a VCR. I'm Gonzo.
I'm Mike.
Hey, we're going to discuss some of the best and worst movies. As usual, we're going to give you our take. We'll make a recommendation, and we'll also give the each film our own unique rating. So this week, Michael, is your cell phone silenced?
It is. I'm ready to go, Gonzo.
Okay, me too. Me too. So in this episode, we're going to discuss the 1985 teen comedy drama. It's a John Hughes classic, The Breakfast Club. Mike, this was a commercial success. It grossed 51.5 million at the box office, and that doesn't sound big like it did. Karate Kid was like 150, but this thing only took $1 million to make this movie. Can you even believe that?
Oh, wow.
You know how many movies are terrible that probably spent 20 times $1 million, right? 20 million or
Sure.
more. It's crazy. So this film is often cited as one of Hughes' most defining works. And as you'll remember, when we did the Mr. Mom episode, because of how Mr. Mom did, Hughes got that 3 picture deal, and this was one of the pictures that was in that deal that really got him started there. So critics gave big praise to the script, to the performances by each of the actors, and we're going to talk about them as usual, and the emotional resonance of the entire film. So this is widely regarded as one of the greatest teen films ever made, and is considered a quintessential work of 80s American cinema. 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it won this I'd never heard of, Mike, in 2005, which was the 20-year anniversary. It won the Silver Bucket of Excellence Award at,
Oh,
at MTV Movie and TV Awards. So there you go. It's pretty special. So this was my pick. So I'm going to go ahead and explain the plot. Pretty simple plot, and you can add on anything if I miss it. But these are 5 people in high school students who have detention on a Saturday. They've got to spend like 8 hours in detention a whole Saturday. For various reasons, they're in there, and we'll talk about it as we get into it. And they're each different, right? The film, they're from like a different clique in the school, right? So one of them's considered like a criminal, one of them's considered an athlete, or what I used to always say, we just called them jocks, right? So and one of them's considered a brain, one of them's considered a princess, so very popular, socialite. And then one of them's considered, the movie calls him her a basket case. So this is just sort of a loner, an introvert, someone who's just really um, uh, d- d- to themselves. So obviously from these cliques, these people are some of them will get along a little bit, some of them really won't get along, a lot of them won't even talk to each other, and there's a lot of clashing going on. They have to sit in a library for 8 hours and and learn to sort of get along with each other under the supervision of the school's vice principal, who's just like he's just a tyrant to these kids in his way. I sort of like the way it comes off. He's almost comes off like a little bit like Lee Ermey, right? And as a
mhm.
drill sergeant, and sometimes the way he is. So, but he's supervising them and giving them an assignment to do. And as you'd expect, they're not going to get along very well. They got to learn to get along. And by the end of this Saturday, they sort of come to realize that, they're a lot more alike than they are different. And they make some relationships and sort of become friends. What is that about it, Mike? You got anything to add to it?
Yeah, yeah. The only two things I'd add, Gonzo, and I think this did not occur to me until we just recently watched it
Yep.
in prep for the podcast. Uh, it hit me that this is like a teen Gilligan's Island almost, like a very short-term Gilligan's Island where you're bringing together these personalities. The second thing that hit me, except for very few scenes throughout the movie, it's almost like a play. Like
Yeah.
you can definitely show this on a stage somewhere. And you get that sense with some movies where it takes place in essentially one setting.
Yeah, yeah. I always think when I think of that idea, I think of, for whatever reason, Barney Miller jumps to my mind. Like I think that whole show was all done in that one set, from what I remember.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting there, and we'll talk a little bit about the set and everything as well. So first take. I know, we want to know if you've seen it before you watched it to prep for this. I'm sure you've seen this. I remember seeing it when I would have been like a junior in high school,
Mhm.
or maybe I think it came out in February, so I was a junior, and then I remember liking it back then. So how about you? When had you first seen this?
No, no, great point. You almost couldn't live through the 80s without seeing this movie. It was just one of those movies. I will say I was in middle school when it came out. Uh, I don't think I saw this in the theater. I do think I actually saw this for the first time on a VCR. One of those
Oh,
weekends when you and your buddies went and got a stack of movies, from the Minute Market. I don't even think we had Blockbuster yet.
yeah,
You
yeah.
went to your local convenience store and grabbed a stack of movies.
Yeah, there's a place that we used to have. I don't know if it down where you had the place called like Errol's. Does that ring a bell? It was a place
No, not for me. We had very generic, not even
I think it
chain.
was like a regional chain around Washington D.C. area. So what's your first take on this movie? Just
I liked it, but I liked it when I watch it now. I like it, but back then, being a middle schooler, I probably wasn't thinking too deeply. And I remember I liked it for the lines, kind of like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You would see a movie you like, and you and your buddies would go around uh, quoting that. So a lot of the movie's messages and deeper meaning was totally lost on me.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it's funny. Some of the critique back then in '85 was that it's a lot of talking, and most younger people wanted more action. They thought, like the critics said, "Well, I don't know if this is going to go off because there's a lot of discussion and not as much action for the younger people to watch." But I think this movie, I thought it was great then. I think it still holds up today. It's a very simple concept. I think they are realistic portrayals for the most part of the different people from their different groups, the cliques. And I think it's an interesting movie. Well, some of the discussions they have, and very predictable interactions between the characters, and some very unpredictable interactions between the characters as they change and they sort of get to know each other. And it's interesting to me. One of my other takes is like, and I know we've talked about this before. Both of us were in the military. You were in the Marine Corps. I was in the Army. And like when you're in that basic training or you're in that unit in the Army, there's people from all over, all types. There's a guy who might have been a big athlete. There's someone who might have been a loner, and everyone in between, a person who might have been in trouble and always the troublemaker. And you all get in there and you go through that, and you have to learn to live together, and you get to be friends. And it's sort of like this is almost like a little mini basic training for one day. What do you think
Uh,
about that?
that's a good parallel. I had not thought about that, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah. So we want to talk about the main characters here and go through them. So we're talking about the guys first, right? So we're going to start with Andrew Clark. This is played by Emilio Estevez, and his role is he's the athlete. And what we used to say when I was in high school is the jocks. He's a jock. So I'll start here. I think he's a good fit for the role and believable. I was interested to read that he was running 6 to 10 miles a day to get in shape for this movie because
Oh, wow.
he was sort of like, I guess, a little chubby or something before, and they were like, man, you have to look the part, right?
Mhm.
I love the fact in his role when push comes to shove. I mean, he's in this role. He's a state champion wrestler, and I've done some wrestling in my life and coached some wrestling in my life. And he's there in Illinois. This is set in the suburbs of Chicago, and I'm telling you, like Illinois is a wrestling state. It's not the biggest, but it's a good wrestling state. And a state champion in Illinois would easily take that guy down when he gets into it with Bender, who we'll talk about. Um, and so I love that they made that realistic. He wasn't intimidated. He wasn't. He's a high level athlete. He's strong. He's in shape, and he's not gonna. Wrestling's a combat sport too, so he's not gonna back down at all when this tough guy tries to get in his face, right? Even though he's a little smaller than the guy. So, and I'd like for you to remember, Mike, what I said about Karate Kid. Like, this is my guy that I said, Emilio Estevez, he should have been the one who played Karate Kid because he could pull it off, right? Um,
Uh,
Other roles I know him from, Outsiders, obviously, Men at Work when he's with his brother Charlie Sheen. There's a movie called Wisdom. I don't know if you've seen that. I remember liking back in the day, so you should check that one out. So I thought he does a great job in this role. what's your take on Andrew Clark?
No, I agree, Gonzo, and I was going to totally defer to you on this character. I know you got the strong wrestling background. I said I can't wait to see what you have to say about him. In terms of what I'll add, I agree. It was as you were talking, it was making me realize, and I don't know that I really thought about it a whole lot, but Bender, who we'll talk about in a second, and Andrew were definitely vying for leader of that group, even though it was a small group, but it was a social situation, and they both had different ways of kind of attacking it. Uh,
Yep.
but he was good, and we could see at the beginning of the movie when he's getting out of what was it, a truck with his dad.
Yep.
Uh, his dad really seemed in that very short span of time when they were having the conversation, you definitely got the sense that his dad was reliving vicariously, his athletic days, his days as a jock when he was back in school.
Yep.
Um, and in terms of movies, we got to go back. Of course, he was in St. Elmo's Fire.
Of course.
We talked about Maximum Overdrive. Not the greatest movie in the world, but had a great soundtrack with AC/DC. Uh, The Outsiders, which 5 years after The Outsiders came out, you wouldn't even been able to afford to make the movie because everybody, including Emilio Estevez, blew up.
That's right.
And a couple of my personal favorites, Young Guns 1 and 2, where Emilio played Billy the Kid, William H.
Okay.
Bonney.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So now, I said Men at Work. I'm talking about that. And he was in that with Charlie Sheen. Was Charlie Sheen also in Young Guns?
He was.
He was. So that's another one both the brothers were in, right? So for
Yeah.
people who don't know, Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, sons of Martin Sheen,
Mhm.
and I think Estevez is sort of the actual name, and sort of the stage name that Martin took is the one that Charlie took. So all right. So we're going to move on. That's the jock. Thought he did a great job. We're going to move on to Brian Johnson. This is played by one of your favorite guys, Anthony Michael Hall. He plays the part of the brain. How do you think he did in this role?
He was good. It seemed like he was playing against type, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe I am. My timeline gets a little mixed up. I think this was definitely after Weird Science. So I think he was trying to, get into a different kind of role. He played a kind of dork in Weird Science, although he was into computers. He played in 16 Candles. He was definitely part of the nerd herd there.
Yeah.
To borrow a line from one of our previous movies. Uh, I took away from we learn a lot about the characters just when they're getting dropped off. They make sure that we get a sense of what kind of home life they're coming from. And you could tell he's probably going to be the first one or one of the first ones from his family to go to college because they're really pushing him, they're pressuring him. And also, that is Andrew Michael Hall's real mom and little sister. Uh,
Yes.
to me, high school, the way that he acted throughout the movie, he fit the typical stereotype. For me, I don't think he was a freshman, but he acted like a freshman. He kind of got pushed around the way a freshman may have back in the 80s when you're kind of paying your dues and uh, going from middle school into that different world. But he got revenge in the end because he probably grew up to be Bill Gates.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So yeah, I think he does a great in his role as like the brainy geek. We've seen him; he's very versatile. And he's still there's some streaming movie I saw. I remember telling you about it a couple months ago. It was a terrible movie, but I mean, he's still actually he's in it. So he's still working. I think he really nails this. I think he it's interesting. I didn't remember um, that it's like he's reading the paper at the opening credits. You remember it at the end credits, but he's reading it. He just doesn't give you the final conclusion in the end credits. So I thought that was really interesting, and I'm watching this for the podcast. I'm like, oh wow, this is like the end at the start. So
Yeah.
and you take it differently as you're hearing it at the start, and then you hear it at the end, and you're like, oh wow, I'm taking this a whole different way. So I'm going to tell you, I love, like you said, he's sort of getting pushed around a bit when he's trying to take his jacket off because he's getting he's getting like in the library, he's getting hot, and then
Yeah.
Bender sees him and it's like looking like, what are you doing? You take your jacket off like you're trying to be like me, and he puts it back on. He blows his hands like he's cold. So he does
Yeah.
a really good job acting. He's a funny, he can pull off the funny stuff too. So
Yeah.
like I, he was in Vacation.
Mhm.
Lampoon's Vacation when he was very young. 16 Candles, like you said.
Yeah.
Edward Scissorhands, I pulled that one. He played a sort of a different role. He was like the bad guy in that, wasn't
Oh,
he?
okay. I'd forgot all about that one.
Yeah, I think he was sort of like like a bully type of guy. So, but yeah, he does a good job. So, um, good role. He fits the part. It just works. We're going to move on to the last of the guys here who are in detention. We're talking about John Bender, played by Judd Nelson, and he plays the part. They call it in the movie the criminal, right? So I'll start here. This is my favorite character. I knew guys like this in high school, Mike, and
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, it's like he's a conglomeration of them. Like not every guy had all of that. He was to the extreme, but
Yeah.
like I knew guys who were like this, who were just as back talking to the teachers, who were just as bullying, who were just as like snide to the females. Like it's like you put all of these bad troublemakers together, and this is John Bender. So where would he be today? You know, I mean, it's funny, and your vice principal says that. He said, "You want to see something funny? Look,
Mhm.
you come find John Bender in 5 years."
Yeah.
And then he gets serious, and he's like, "Yeah, you'll see who's laughing then after Bender is making all those jokes and making fun of him." So I read this, and I'm thinking this is correct. You probably read a little bit too, but I read that John Hughes wanted John Cusack to play this role,
Yeah.
and they tried him out, and they're like, he's just not intimidating.
Right.
Cusack couldn't pull off intimidating,
No.
and Judd Nelson definitely pulls it off here. Like
Mm.
you believe he can come from a rough home, a rough background, and a tough upbringing, and you believe he's out there, smoking the weed and partying, and in the back seats of cars with girls like he's talking about, and he's stealing, like he steals something off the counter of the library like it's like, I don't know, it's a hall pass or something. He looks at it and keeps it. So he's just a troublemaker. So I think he does a great job. This is my favorite character, and
Yeah.
of course we saw him in St. Elmo's Fire. What else has he been in? I think some TV. I don't remember a lot. What did you think about Bender?
I wish we differed on this more because I think it would be more interesting. He is also my favorite character. Your background and mine are similar enough that all the way up until about middle school, I probably would have been more at home hanging out with Brian. I was all about school. I was all about making good grades. I hit middle school, everything went sideways all the way through the rest of school. I had a good time. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. Unfortunately, a lot of those guys are not around anymore, uh,
Mm,
and were some fantastic dudes. He was the most interesting to me. He had the best lines, and he was also, even though there were some things I didn't like about him, just like picking on Brian. He's picking the easy target. I wasn't a fan of that. Pick on somebody your size or bigger. That makes it more interesting. Uh, but in terms of the character, I thought he was fantastic. Uh, he was also in Making the Grade, and that was,
okay.
I can't even remember the plot, but I think I mentioned this to you one time, a long time ago. He had a scene in that. The only thing I remember from that movie was he took a cigarette. I have never smoked in my life, and he just threw it in his mouth and caught it in his lips. I must have spent the rest of the night practicing that move when I got my mom's cigarettes. He was also in New Jack City. He was in Psych, a show on USA Today, and he has everybody in this movie, whether they blew up big or they didn't really make anything big after this. They have worked continually through the last few decades. They're all still working.
Yeah, yeah, no, and this is they're all the Brat Pack, right?
Yeah,
It's some of the same. So we saw Emilio Estevez, and Judd Nelson in St. Elmo's Fire, right? So that takes us moving on to the gals. There's two um, young ladies who are in detention for the Saturday, and the first one is played by Molly Ringwald, and her role is Claire Standish here. Not that the last name really matters. She plays the one who's the socialite, the princess. What was your take on her? How'd she do there?
I thought she did good in the role. The thing that I wasn't buying, and maybe this is just me, everybody may disagree. I was not buying her as the most popular girl in school. I thought she did great at the role, but I just didn't see that in terms of the character herself. She had no consequences for her actions, so that was making her a weaker person. This is just my opinion on that character. I think she'd have been a lot stronger person if she had ever been held accountable by anybody, including either one of her parents, who I think are rich and playing her against each other because they're probably going to get a divorce. I love the way Bender he he knew exactly how to get under people's skin, including Claire's, and he was more worldly and had insight of an adult, and he knew how to get under Claire's skin. He said, "That's a fat girl's name."
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and that pushed a button for her right off right off the top. In terms of Molly Ringwald's other work, you may remember her way back in Facts of Life, where she really stretched herself as an actor, playing the character of Molly. Uh,
Oh,
Oh yeah, that was her name in Facts of Life. She was Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, and later on making fun of teen movies in Not Another Teen Movie. So I thought she did a good job. Uh, I probably would have cast somebody else, but Molly Ringwald was kind of the it person in terms of who you're going to cast in those early 80s movies.
yeah. So are you thinking more about the looks? Like because like I'm thinking of like
I can buy her as rich,
yes,
absolutely,
yes.
and spoiled, yes. And it's not that she's an unattractive lady or girl because she's not. I just don't see her as the way they described her through the movie
Yeah.
and the
Okay.
way they saw her walking through school. If anything, I think she was more popular for the money.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think she does a great job and very believable at being the rich girl who's popular because of that, and popular because of the friends she makes because of that. She's not like I don't even know if this is the character or the actress. Like, remember did Can't Buy Me Love? Like
Mhm.
maybe like the Amanda Peterson. That
Yeah,
character would fit perfectly in there because you believe like, oh, she's the most popular girl in school, right?
right.
Just because she has that classic 80s look. So
Yeah,
but yeah, I could see her. She did play off the entitled rich girl well, and I bet
absolutely.
yeah, she plays it well enough. I'm thinking like, is this how is she playing herself here?
Mhm.
The way she is. Maybe she is. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen an interview with her and hear her talking just normally, not in role. So, but it seems like she's a lot like this person. So I think she does well. I'm going to say she is not. Let me see how I'm going to say this for our audience here. She is not busty enough to be able to put lipstick in
Yeah,
in her cleavage and do that. so
right.
so
Yeah.
that sits to me. That's not happening.
I'm glad you said
In
it,
that
Gonzo, so I didn't.
yeah, I mean, she's not right at the time. Maybe she is now. I don't know. So, but yeah, I remember she did a great job in 16 Candles. And I
Oh
think
yeah,
16 Candles is a little bit more where you're thinking from your
yeah,
description. That's her wheelhouse of what type of character she should be playing. The
yeah.
sort of awkward, trying to find her way and not the
Oh,
most
she was
popular.
awesome in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then of course in Pretty in Pink, which was very strange sort
Mhm.
of movie compared to some of these others. But anyway, we're not talking about that one today. I'm going to move on to the basket case. This is Allison Reynolds, played by Ali Sheedy. So um, now I'll start here. I love her in all things that she's in, and the transformation from how they had her look at the start to how they had her look at the end, I was like, man, she's pretty.
Yeah.
And she does some great acting here through the
Hmm.
first 20, 30 minutes of the movie. Great acting, a great character without saying a word. Maybe
Yeah.
just a little, a little like just gesture, or it just really, really great job at it.
Mhm.
I remember her very young in War Games with Matthew Broderick, right?
Yeah.
War Games, they were so young, that had to be before Broderick's big breakout, which was, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right?
Hmm.
And Ali Sheedy, played also in St. Elmo's Fire. We saw her there in the same movie with Emilio Estevez and Judd Nelson. I think she's great. I haven't had a role where I've seen her that I'm like, I don't like her. Now I'm wondering, I'm going to stretch here, Mike, stretch your knowledge here.
Uh,
Is it possible? And I think I'm totally wrong here, that when we talk about the real movie Bad Boys,
oh yeah.
is she with Sean Penn? Is she in that as his
You
girlfriend?
nailed it. I was
It,
going to say, if you
is,
missed this,
is
I'm
that
going to
her?
give it to
Oh
you.
man, I love her in all the things. She does a
Yes.
great job. So what's your take on the basket case here?
No, I'm with you. If anything, if you look back at what she was in and contrast it with what she wasn't in, I want to say Ali Sheedy was probably underused as an actress. I don't think she got nearly enough roles back in the day. Uh, because, like you said, she did so much with a character that had so few lines. And in terms of the males, I like Bender. I couldn't wait to see what he was going to do or say next. I was much more interested in what was in her backstory versus Claire's backstory.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think she did a great job. Anything else on her before we move on?
No, I just honorable mention to where she was an incredible artist. In just a few minutes of detention, she's done this great picture of this outdoor scene, and then apparently she's got dry scalp or severe dandruff, and she uses that to
Yeah,
make a snowstorm on the picture. So I thought, well, that's kind
yeah,
of
yeah. And for trivia's sake, that was actually Parmesan cheese. I
okay.
read that they used. So
So that
uh,
wasn't improvising on Allie's part.
no. So yeah, it was the snow, right? So there's a couple other characters here. Almost one of my favorites, Richard Vernon. This is the vice principal, played by Paul Gleason.
Yeah,
How did you like his role there, Mike?
I absolutely loved him. Hey, you mess with the bull, you get the horn.
That's right.
I
That's
love
right.
it. How many times have you heard that through the years? And I don't know that it came from this movie, but it absolutely popularized it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, I think this is my second favorite character, and he plays the perfect villain. I think it's funny because it's almost like he's. Remember, I said that metaphor of the basic training, different people from different groups getting in, having to live through, and you do that. The reason you bond because you go through the tough part there in with him. He's almost like the drill sergeant who comes in, right?
Yep.
So great scenes, all of the back and forth, disrespectful and things with him and Bender. It's like him and Bender they could be a two-person act. Like
Yeah.
you said, it could be a play. Just those two characters, everyone else out of it, and the back and forth and the man. I thought it was brilliant back and forth between them.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
he,
will say, Gonzo,
yeah,
I think you'll agree with this. We've all seen those teachers back in school. We all had teachers we absolutely loved, administrators, that really connected with us. This guy's on the other end of the spectrum. He's one of the people that picked his job for all the wrong reasons, and he's just gotten saltier and more jaded. And we've all had teachers like that too, that they reflect back on their careers, and maybe you and I being in their class were a part of that. They said, you know what, I should have done something else. Like
yeah.
I'm not feeling this teaching thing anymore.
I hear you 100%, 100%. Everybody knew. So I'm thinking of a person right now. I'm not going to say any names from my high school. So, and one that was an assistant principal. So,
Mhm.
um, all right. So I loved him also, by the way, just going to say he's been in a lot of things. Can't name anything right offhand except for Trading Places. He
Yeah.
is he he's the guy who runs the security consulting. He's like a security consultant for the club, the men's club. He does a great job in that. So there's some
Yeah.
great lines he has in Trading Places too. When someone's like waiting for him to get off the telephone,
Yeah.
it's just perfect. So anything else you've seen him in?
No, I did look at his filmography. There weren't, I think you and I both have seen TV shows through the decades where he's been a bit player, like most of these others. He's just been active career for decades, but just not a role like this that stands out.
Yeah, I mean, this was a big one for him. Probably his most, beside. I mean, this was even bigger than Trading Places, in my opinion. So, in terms of the time he got on the screen and everything. So,
Yeah.
um, so all right, he does a great job. We're going to move on to Carl Reed. This is the janitor. He's played by John Capellos. Hopefully, that's the right pronunciation there. So, this guy is awesome. Small role, very cool role. I love when he catches Vernon, the vice principal, in what are you doing in the basement files,
Yeah.
Rich, and he says, "Oh, I'm just doing some research here." And he said, "In the confidential files, right?" And he says, "Oh, well, I'd really love it if we could keep this between us." He was like, "What are you gonna do for me?" He was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "What do you want?" He said, $50. Now,
Yeah.
in 1985, $50 is a
Hmm.
lot more than it is now. And I
Yeah.
still think it's a lot now. You're basically
Sure.
it's extortion, right? But um,
Mhm.
I love that part. I also love him, how he rolls with the punches when Bender sort of trying to make fun of him a little bit for being a janitor. And like Bender's the last guy who really should be making fun of him for being a janitor.
Yeah.
Because Bender's like probably on a path to a job like that because he's not taking anything seriously.
Mhm.
But who knows? But did you catch the part when they're showing in the hallway? It says Carl Reed, like man of the year or whatever. Like,
Yes.
so he went to that high school and he was like the most popular guy who
Right.
everyone loved and won an award, was probably prom king or something. And here
Yeah.
he ends up. But I love when he sort of gets Bender back on his side and to stop being on the attack. And Bender
Yeah.
sort of laughs. He's like, "By the way, that clock's 20 minutes fast." So I love him. I remember him. He was the Molly Ringwald's older sister married him. He was the what they called the oily bohunk in 16 Candles. The guy
Yeah.
who was like, I guess he was the son of a mobster or something that in that movie. So, what do you think about Carl?
Yeah, I like Carl. The only thing I would add, and it goes along with what you were saying, he was man of the year. And of course, I'm questioning, I'm like, was there such thing as man of the year at high school at some point? I mean, I know you had senior superlatives, you had that kind of stuff, but you brought up a good point. He was the man back when he was in high school, and I ran the numbers. This was 15 years after he graduated. So
Okay.
if you'll notice, he's the one character in the whole movie that Bender can't get under his skin, and you can tell Bender likes him
Yeah.
because although he's a school janitor, he's got it figured out. He's lived his good life. He understands the dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very well said. Very cool. So, um, yeah, just does a great job. He's one of those people. Interesting factoid that I read. And again, I don't have notes with me here, Mike, but I'm thinking originally Hughes had put Rick Moranis in for this, to be
Oh,
the
wow.
yeah to be the janitor, and
Mhm.
because of the sort of that emotional resonance of the movie and how some of those issues and them learning, there's a lot of seriousness in this movie as well as funny stuff going on with these relationships, and it would just ended up there like Moranis, he's just too slapstick. They're like, it's
Yeah.
just it doesn't fit with the vibe of the movie. So I think definitely Carl, this guy John Capellos, did a better job than Moranis would have. I wouldn't have liked to see that. So okay, what's your favorite part of this movie? What,
Okay.
or scene or whatever?
Yeah. Like so many other movies, certain scenes, although they're really random in the big scheme of things, just hit me. And my favorite scene was where Bender escaped from the supply closet where he was locked in, and he's crawling through the ceiling. and just by himself, nobody's around, and he's telling himself a joke out loud and he's laughing at it as he's going along. And then he falls through the tiles back in the library just as he's getting to the punchline. And I remember it's a naked blonde walks into a bar with a poodle under one arm and a 2 foot salami under the other. And she lays a poodle onto the table, and the bartender says, "Suppose you won't be needing a drink." And the naked lady says, and then he says, "Oh shit," as he falls through the ceiling. I said, that stands out to me. That just shows you something about how my mind works. That pops out as my favorite scene.
All right. Yeah, that's I wouldn't have guessed that for anything, man. So all right. So I I'm gonna cheat here a little bit and say all interactions between Bender and Vernon,
Mhm.
I love them,
Yeah.
especially though the challenge to fight when the Vernon locks him, which is totally illegal to take a kid into a
Oh,
small room and
sure.
lock him in there. He locks him in there, and then he comes and he challenges him to a fight. Um, and that part gets so serious there. And he was
Yeah.
like, he said someday, when this is all done, I'm going to see you. You'll be living your dreary life, and I'll be there. And he said, I'm going to just beat your ass. And
Yeah.
and Bender, being a kid at the time, trying to think like, oh, I'm going to get someone in trouble here. He goes, is that a threat? And he's like, what are you going to do about it? Like he's like, basically, yes, it is. It's just me and you. And he says, no one's going to believe you. Everyone's going to believe me. They think I'm a great guy. I mean, that's just a great, and he backed Bender down. So you saw a little bit of the real part, like, hey, he's not the big gangster criminal he thinks he is. He's still a kid, right? I love it though. I'm going to give a also when Bender takes the hit and runs the halls singing
Yeah.
the Airborne Ranger cadence, which I don't know where he learned that, but
Right.
and
Maybe
but
his dad.
yeah, maybe so. And he is he's ripping things off the wall. He's making a lot of noise. And then when he finally Vernon finally catches him, this is before he locks him in the room in the hallway. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's playing basketball. He says, "Oh, don't you want to know my plan?" He said, "I think I might try out for a scholarship."
Uh-huh.
It was just great. It was funny, and then it gets serious. This movie plays that funny, serious back and forth so well, because the serious parts are serious, right, and the
Oh
funny
yeah.
parts are hilarious. So I want to give an honorable mention. Um, uh, I love the scene where they're reading the paper at the end, where it starts with Brian is reading it, and then when they say they list off the categories, the athlete, the princess, the basket case, it's each of their different names. It doesn't go, Brian of course says the brain, but
Yeah.
I love that scene and the fist pump at the end. That's
Mm.
iconic. Every, I'm just gonna say I don't know anybody that can see that and doesn't know. I know my sons are in their 20s, and if you show them that fist bump, they're like, "Yeah, Breakfast Club." Like they
Yeah.
know, right? But
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you, when he reads it off, and I looked this up.
Mhm.
Um, he said no less than 1,000 words, right? Vernon
Yeah.
says that about who you think you are.
Mhm.
And that speech is not 1,000 words.
Yeah.
So he didn't, even the brain didn't finish the
Well, they pretty much told him to go get screwed when they decided that, hey, one person's going to write this
yeah,
anyways. They
ex-
pretty much your assignment means nothing to us.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, good scenes there. Good scenes. So, least favorite part or stupidest scene. I'm going to start here.
Yeah.
And you already brought this up. I'm like, you're stealing my thunder here. Listen, the dandruff scene, which but yeah, it was Parmesan cheese. We get it when Allison draws the great picture. It's supposed to be a snowy thing, and then she scratches her hair, and it's dandruff or whatever coming out. Just because someone is a loner, an introvert, an outsider, that
Mhm.
doesn't equate always with bad hygiene.
Yeah.
I think what it does for me, and maybe this is just me thinking, wow, she looks so cute at the end. Um, uh, it hurts the transformation scene at the end as well, because she's like suddenly like, wow,
If
she's
you're still looking
beautiful.
for flakes.
Yeah, you're still like, oh, but she had those flakes, so she doesn't, take care of herself. So that hurts the transformation scene. I think I could do without it. It's a thumbs down for me.
Yeah.
Um, I think it hurts the transformation scene. I could have done without it. I could do with seeing that she's a great artist and everything,
Yeah.
and sketching this just tells us a little bit of something about her, but we don't need to go there. But then that's where Hughes does sometimes. You know about the remember the vacuum cleaner, Mr. Mom. I didn't like that either. We're going
Yeah.
a little bit over the edge there. So a dishonorable mention for my least favorite when Andrew is dancing after they all get high in the library, screams and breaks the glass door in the studio. Stupid, wouldn't happen. I don't need that. I can have him screaming and dancing around, and that's fine with me. So, stupid scene, thumbs down for me. What do you got, man?
Well, it's funny, Gonzo, because your dishonorable mention was my least favorite scene. Um, in some ways, the thing that keeps this from being the perfect movie for me is they tried to do a little bit too much when they went to the fun time where everybody's playing music and they're dancing around because we're led to believe that the vice principal is kind of keeping tabs on what they're doing, making sure everybody's staying quiet. All of a sudden, they've got the music up so loud that there's no way everybody in that building is not going to hear it. So I would go even a little bit further than you did with the scene because it was that whole scene for me. The wrestler was supposed to be getting high, doing the foot. Basically, it's the scene from Footloose,
Mm.
which came out a year before. It's almost the exact same kind of scene where he's doing the gymnastics, jumping around, running through the building. And then he screams to the point, like you said, where the glass on the door shatters. I'm not sure what was in that marijuana, and we've talked about this before. The representation of people doing drugs in movies and what actually happens when you do certain drugs are like two different things. Uh, I was friends with a lot of dudes that used to get high, and I've never seen anything like that. So that just, I could do without that. I'd love to see them edit that out. It was almost like a dream scene.
Okay, okay. And you know what? I read also that trivia. It was supposedly for whatever reason, it was supposed to be just Molly Ringwald dancing to music. And
Okay.
like when they were, and I don't know the background, but then she was like, apparently she was like, hey, why is it just me? Like everybody should dance. And then they were like, okay, let's play around, shoot some scenes, play some music, and then they just cut and took what they thought looked cool, I guess, or something. But yeah, good point. Way too loud. Vernon would have been busting in. What the hell's going on, right? And they'd all be coming back the next Saturday, except instead of just Bender because of breaking the glass and smoking weed, you'd have been able to smell it in there. I get you. I get you. That's a pretty good one here. So, additional comments. What do you got here?
Uh, I was trying, I said, man, how sweet would that detention be? Because I've said before, back when I was in high school, even more so middle school, I took full advantage of all of my school's disciplinary measures. I mean, I had detention, in school suspension, we called ISS, I had out of school suspension. Uh, our detention wasn't nearly as fun. I was so jealous. Ours was after school. It was in a classroom, so the teacher was always just right there. I thought, how sweet would detention have been if they left you in there in this nice big library and just went away? So that was pretty sweet. Um, the seven dwarves, I was trying to think of when they started bonding because I really never paid attention before. And it almost seemed like when Bender starts whistling, I want to say that's from the seven dwarves, and everybody else starts whistling in because they're so bored. That seems to be the first place where they start bonding. Um,
Is that from the Seven Dwarves, or
I
what's that?
could be
That's sleep.
completely wrong about that.
I'm thinking about like the movie The Bridge Over the River Kwai. Was that on there?
And but Seven Dwarves came from way back, so maybe
Yeah,
Bridge over the River Kwai. Uh,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know. We should look that up. But
yeah,
um, okay,
I
okay,
could definitely be wrong about that, but that's the Seven Dwarves came to mind
yeah,
when I saw that.
okay. And it's you're talking about Sleeping Beauty, right? Isn't it Sleeping Beauty? Not the Seven Dwarfs. Is not
Oh
the
yeah,
name of
it's
the
Snow
movie.
White.
Yeah, Snow White. Snow
See, neither one of us know our Disney well enough to
No,
talk
no.
about
That's why we don't do those movies on here. So, so
Maybe we'll do that one.
I'm sitting there thinking, is there a movie called The Seven Dwarfs? In my head, thinking,
Hey,
what
I
the hell is
think
he
I missed
talking
that
about?
one.
So, so all right. Other comments from you on this?
I don't know. It's I'll probably say more about it when we get to the ratings and
Okay.
everything. I mean, there is so much to say about this, and I liked it. I love all the lines in it.
Yeah.
But I just recently watched this. This only happened uh, on YouTube. They had a cast reunion. This is just in the last few months. It was the first time in 40 years. All the five of the students, all the actors that played the students, have been on one stage, and that was good to watch and hear their feedback, kind of how they felt about each other, how they felt about the movie. They are all in love with John Hughes. He seemed to be an incredible man who actually took young people seriously. And that's something that even the movies I loved back in the day, when you watched how people your age were being portrayed, you're like, this is just dumb as shit.
Yeah, yeah, no, and you know, it's like, yeah, Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall dated for a short period of time right after that movie, or around that time period. So, yeah, that didn't last or anything, but yeah, it was interesting. She had done, that's her second full movie with him, 16 Candles and Breakfast Club. So, I thought it was a great cast. Just for my additional comments, great cast. We'll see them again and again. We saw them in St. Elmo's Fire. You're going to see them all crossing paths again and again. They're all part of what they call the Brat Pack.
Yeah.
You mentioned this, Anthony Michael Hall's actual mother, Mercedes is her name. She plays his mother in the drop off scene, and I didn't know she was a blues and jazz singer and an actress as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so she had her own little career, and then Mary Christian is her daughter. So it's Michael Hall's Anthony Michael Hall's half sister played the little sister. She did even a great job. She just said like, yeah, like she said, find a way to study. Um,
Oh, yeah.
John Hughes was an
Uh,
uncredited cameo. He was Brian's father at the pickup scene. Um,
Dude, I completely missed that.
yeah, yeah, that's that. And I had heard that before, but you know,
Yeah.
I looked it up to make sure. I was like, yeah, I think it was his. I knew it was one of them. And so yeah, he played that just to get himself on the screen there real quick. And the filming took place at a closed high school in DePlain, Illinois. It's called Maine North High School. This
Mhm.
is also the high school they used in parts of Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Okay.
So this is probably part of the reason that it was such a low budget. This is a closed school, and they're able to use it. And they don't need to do that much. But the library was way too small. But they liked the design of it, so they took the design of the library that was actually in this closed high school, and they built an enlarged replica in the school's gym. And that's where they film most of it, right? Besides the hallway scenes, which there are a few of those, right?
Yeah.
The last thing I want to say about this: Simple Minds, Don't You Forget About Me.
Hmm.
That big song that was released in February of 1985, the same month as the movie came out. So it came out like it was the movie's out. That's a big part of the movie. It's a great song, and it hits radio right when that movie comes out. So that really boosted both the song and I think the movie. Um,
Yeah, I would
so
add on to that. Simple Minds originally did not want to do the song, and if it weren't for that song, and they had one other hit, "Alive and Kicking," I don't think anybody would really know them. They originally looked to Billy Idol and Brian Ferry, and
okay.
neither one of them took it.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, yeah. Simple Minds made it was a good call on. Like you're right. Like this made them. That song makes them as a band. Anyone, I don't know what they're still doing anything, but if they are, it's because of that song,
Yep.
because of this movie. Um, so those are little additional things. But again, great cast. We'll see him again and again right throughout the 80s. So um, we're gonna talk about the message. We've talked about this, Mike. If
Mhm.
you can't get a message out of a moral, a lesson from a story, why are you even watching it, right? Um, so I'll start here. I know a lot of them, especially for some reason your picks, Mike. I'm having a lot of trouble with some of your picks finding a
I
message.
like to throw out a challenge.
Yeah. So although, listen, we naturally self-sort. I mean, and you could see this now. Go into a high school now. A lot of the kids who play sports are sitting together. A lot of this group sitting together. A lot of the kids who are really, really into the grades, and really the intellectual kids are sitting together. A lot of the popular cheerleader types are sitting together. People do this automatically because people self sort. It doesn't make people bad to say,
Mhm.
hey, I'm hanging out, I'm spending time with people that I feel comfortable with, that I have things in common with.
Yeah.
So self-sorting is going to happen, and it happens naturally. But although that, I think the lesson is, we can't define ourselves by the groups,
Mhm.
but rather by the experiences and the common struggles we've had. Going back to that basic training example, right? They're going through this. They've got to spend a Saturday together in this room together. They've got this, hard ass principal giving them crap the whole time, and um, they learn that, hey, we're more alike than we are different, and at the end of the day, we can be friends, and that's how it ends. Like, heck, Andrew gets together with Allison, and now they're dating. She takes a patch off his jacket, right, his Letterman's jacket. And I mean, Brian's sort of there by himself because he wrote the paper. There wasn't a girl for him. But then
Mhm.
Bender and Molly Claire, they get together, and they're like, even if it's just to upset her parents, he says, right,
Yeah.
wouldn't I be a great guy to piss your parents off, right? So
And they kissed right next to their Beamer.
exactly, right
Yeah.
there. And again, like, the message is, be yourself, accept others for who they are as individuals. I think it's a lot. It's similar to the message that we talked about in Can't Buy Me Love, but I think it's much better communicated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's still a great message. Hey, we've got groups, we hang out with people, but we can all get together. We're all really more alike than we are different.
Right.
So uh, there you go. That's the moral of the story there, Mike. What do you got?
Honestly, I think that's well said. I do not have a lot to add to that because that is the gist of the message I took away. If I said anything else, it would just be like you said, sometimes we self-sort, sometimes we are sorted. And whether that's in school, whether that's on a sports team, whether that's in an office environment. And what we find is that if you take me from one, let's say work, you take me from one work team and you put me on another work team that has a different mission, all of a sudden you might see a lot of my opinions change. You might see a lot of my goals change. I'm still the same person, but now I've got this different perspective. And so it's interesting that we as people, whether it's self-sorting or whether we're sorted by some kind of authority figure, whatever, we can find ourselves acting in unexpected ways.
Yeah, no, that sounds perfect. And to add to that, and say, like you said, I'm still the same person, but I'm changing perspective, and I would just argue that there's things that you are changing. You're actually a different person a little bit, and I think maybe sometimes those experiences that you're having in different situations, you're becoming a little bit more of the person that you are, because you're finding things out about yourself. So, like, I love the, yeah, so I was a philosophy major. I'm gonna go there for a second. I love the fact that, like, all the experiences, you start out as a block of marble, or whatever, and all the life's experiences and struggles and the different things that you do in your life, different situations you're in, that's like chipping away parts of it till you see the real you that's inside. So all these different things, these capabilities, you have them inside of you, and life and what you go through in life, and the people you're around, and the
Mhm.
people, the experiences you have, the struggles you have, uh, uh, sort of strip away the bull, and let you become and show the world who you really are. So there's,
I think that's a great insight. And your philosophy, I'm psychology. I would just add in, uh, I had read that they didn't just arbitrarily or randomly pick, the brain, the jock, all this. They were versions of the Jungian archetypes. That we
ah,
all have certain percentages in all of us. We're not all one thing or all something else. And to your point, life's experiences, what we go through, the people we come across, the books we read, it chips away, and we're a more finished version of what we're becoming. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, no, that archetype thing, that makes a lot of sense too. A lot of wisdom in there. Well said on that, man. So, what's your overall take on this movie? I know we talked a little bit. What was your first take? What's your overall take right now?
I think it's a really well done movie. It's one of the few, like I said, that take young people seriously. It's it's not as perfect to me now, but again, I'm a different person watching it. So some of the things I didn't mind, like the dance scenes and the music, and it took me a little bit out of the movie where, 12, 13-year-old Mike, it didn't bother him at all. He probably didn't even notice.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. For me, I love this movie. I
Yeah.
think it was true to high school life in the 80s. And I think it's a great film. I do want to mention just now that I'm thinking about it, like, okay, like, so why were these people in detention, right? I think we, we have to hit that. So Andrew was in detention for bullying someone in the locker room and taking like duct tape or something and taping the guy's,
Gluing their butt cheeks
yeah,
together.
yeah. His buns together, they said. And then when they removed the tape, and I guess the school nurse or whatever, then a lot of his hair and some of his skin ripped. So just terrible bullying incident for no reason, unprovoked, right? So
Yeah.
he's in there for that. Bender's in there for pulling a fire alarm.
Yeah.
Um, just to get out of school or whatever, just to mess around. Brian is in there because he was caught with a flare gun in his locker because he was in a state of depression because he couldn't get a lamp that he was making in shop class to work, right? And Claire was in detention because she was skipping school going shopping with probably her mother or her father's credit card, right?
Yeah.
And then Allison is in, she lets them know at the end that she wasn't even actually supposed to be in detention. She didn't have anywhere else to go, so
Right.
she just showed up there and spent the day with them. But so after all, I think she got some of the best out of it. Right now, she's dating the best athlete in the school probably, and she's got a transformation and she's got some new friends there. So,
Yeah.
so I just thought it was a great film. So we're going to go talk about watch it or trash it. I'll start here. If you haven't seen this movie, you definitely need to watch it. And if you have seen it, you need to watch it again because I've seen it several times throughout the years. And when I sat down, I said, I'm going to watch it start to finish, just sit here by myself and pay attention totally. And I was like, I hope this isn't going to be like, man, I've seen it so many times that I'm gonna not be interested. I
Yeah.
was totally into it the whole time again. So
Yeah.
so I'm just saying, definitely watch it. What do you got, Mike?
I agree with you. Great acting, character driven. And I think we pause there for a second because you and I have talked about other movies like 12 Angry Men or movies like that, where it doesn't have to be big budget. If there's smart dialogue and characters that you care about, it doesn't have to be a big blockbuster. And I think one of the reasons that we don't see, in my opinion, that many good movies coming out today, they're throwing money and special effects and everything else at a movie and nothing's landing because if you don't care about the characters, if you don't care about the story, the movie's going to suck. I don't care how much it costs to make. And these concepts that we're talking about hold up even if trends and technology change.
All right. So you're watching it too.
Yeah.
Very good, man. I agree with you on that. What, man, especially all the special effects and stuff. Some of the stuff looks so good today, but like, what's the story, man? And then
Right.
one of my complaints is that they're coming back today, and you see everything comes up. You're like, oh, look, they're going to show me a preview, and I'm like, this is a remake of something that was good back then. They don't need to remake it. Why are
Yeah.
we keep remaking stuff? Can't you come up with a story, right? So,
Yep.
all right, we're going to come to our ratings. Remember, we've got the worst to the best, sort of like a A B C D E. And the worst is bathroom break. You don't
Mhm.
even need to be in the room. Then we've got below average, no snacks. Maybe I'll scroll through my phone while I'm watching. Then we've got, hey, average movie. I'll sip a Coke while I'm watching it. Then we've got above average, a Coke and a popcorn. And then the best movie, Michael, is this is awesome, top notch, a Coke, popcorn, and a box of Raisinets. I like Raisinets. I'm sure. I think you're a goober guy, right? So,
That is
so a
correct.
Coke, popcorn, and a box of candy. I'm going with Raisinets. What's your rating, Mike?
I'm going to give it cherry Coke and a popcorn. It would almost get a box of goobers too. The thing that would put it over the top for me is they went back in, edited out those musical scenes, those that goofy dancing by Emilio Estevez. Don't blame him for it. It was in the movie. They chose to keep it in. From my understanding, there was a director's cut out there that was like 3 or 4 hours long. To me, you can absolutely find some more interesting dialogue, some more interesting interactions between those characters that are going to make it an even more interesting movie. So for that reason, I'm just giving it the Coke and popcorn.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So I'm going to go with Coke, popcorn, and a box of Raisinets. Why is this? Because this is like 85. This is exactly like high school was for me. I was in high school. I
Mhm.
graduated in 1986. And I knew people exactly like each of these people. I hung out with kids and got in trouble, just like Bender. I was on the wrestling team and no top notch athletes, just like Andrew. I knew some kids that like I used to know when I was younger, and I still kept in touch with them. Brainiac, very smart kids, probably all doing very much better than I am today, right? And in their career and whatnot. I knew the popular girls, and I knew it's perfect to me. It just brings back. It's like I could be walking in my high school and seeing these people. So that's why I've got to add the box of Raisinets, Coke popcorn, box of Raisinets. I thought it was great. Um, oh,
Gonzo, I have to add one thing in here. This
yep.
just sure struck me when you were picturing walking through the high school. One interesting thing about this, I learned while we were doing prep for the movie, and I told my better half, I said, okay, I'm remembering this wrong because when I first saw Anthony Michael Hall, I said I could swear that he was quite a bit shorter than Judd Nelson in this movie. I wasn't misremembering that. If you watch the movie at different parts, Anthony Michael Hall went through a tremendous growth spurt during the making of this movie, and there he was different noticeable heights. So that's something to watch for when you go back and watch the movie again.
Yeah, and something when you watch it again, I want to mention this. I can't believe I didn't mention this already. Like Michael Anthony Hall, why he starts out with his green sweatshirt and tan pants, and then like halfway through the movie, for the rest of the movie, the sweatshirt's on inside out.
Yeah,
It's on inside out. I don't remember him taking the sweatshirt off. I don't know what happened, but it's inside out. And I don't know how that happened and
yeah,
who decided to do that, but it definitely wasn't inside out at the start of the movie. I don't know what that means. What's it about? So
yeah.
it is what it is. It's
And I
crazy.
think I'm getting his name wrong throughout this entire podcast. His name is Michael Anthony Hall or Anthony Michael Hall.
his name, for the record, is
Okay,
Anthony
good.
Michael
Okay.
Hall.
All right.
You got that?
Yeah,
I've been getting it right, I think, right? So
I think so.
you made me second guess myself.
They were probably huge rabid Anthony Michael Hall fans. They're like, "What? Why do you keep getting?"
Yeah, and why do you have to go by three names anyway, right? Just
Yeah,
give me
that's when you know you've arrived. That just sounds totally cool and upscale.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So I think we got this one wrapped up here, Mike. So thanks everybody for listening to Gonzo Mike and a VCR. If you enjoyed it, please follow or subscribe. We'd appreciate it. And if you're on Spotify, you go to our page, you look at that little bell, click on that bell, and you're going to get an automatic. It'll contact you and let us know, let you know when we have a new episode out. So you don't even have to think about it. I want to. If you have a movie that you'd like us to watch, or just have a comment, or even just want to let us know how awesome we are, shoot us an email at gonzomikevcr@gmail.com. That's GONZOMIKEVCR at gmail.com. I'm going to check that for you once a day, Mike. And additionally, feel free leave comments on your listening platform on Apple, on Spotify. We're on YouTube now. You can leave comments on all of these, leave likes, and subscribe on those for us. We'll respond to those comments as well. I get comments on there. We'll pick it up and we'll address it when we come into the next episode. So we would love to get some back and forth from everybody listening. So in our next episode, we're going to mix in a little comedy. I don't know what you think about that, Mike, me saying that, but we're going to mix in a little comedy with some horror
Hmm.
and look at a 1987 movie that Mike has referenced time and again in our podcast. So tell them what it is, Mike.
Yeah, well, Gonzo, as you know, we're in October, and we are going to try before the end of the month, before 31 October, to squeeze in the Lost Boys.
Yeah, yeah, and that is a fun movie. And I know once I told my wife that as soon as I said this is the movie, she said, "Is that Mike's pick?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And she said, "I hate that movie."
Oh, good. Your wife hates every movie.
and I don't get it because I like that movie. And
Oh yeah,
I'm looking forward to watching it again here. So all right, folks, that's a wrap. I'm Gonzo.
I'm Mike.
Until next time, keep watching movies. Gonzo, Mike, and VCR is produced by Gonzo and Mike. All rights reserved.
Gonzo, Mike, and a VCR. Press rewind, they're the movie stars. And